Are you ready?
Ready.
All right, let's go. Kevin here, top 1 financial advisor and best-selling author. We are here to talk about the stock market. Hey, I got a great question on a video yesterday that basically asked this: what is trend trading and what are my thoughts on trend trading? And I sat down, I thought, and said, I do 250 videos a year and have not talked about trend trading and how interesting it is, and then obviously give you my thoughts. So in this video, we need to talk about what it is, what's good about it, what's bad about it, and then my own personal thoughts about it. So basically, trend trading is another word for seasonality. This is basically the fact that some stocks just happen to do better during certain months or certain periods. Think of travel season. We start to think about travel season, I don't know, Labor Day, Memorial Day, that period in time. Do grills do better? Do stocks like Home Depot do better? Do travel stocks do better? And it's starting to invest in that thing, and people who follow this, they invest in those particular stocks during that season. They get out of it when that season is over, and that's pretty much the thought around trend trading. And again, some stocks do better at certain periods of time, but that's what it is. How do you do it, and what are the costs and the benefits and all those types of things? So on the good side, or on the benefit side rather, is that trend trading, it's simple. It's simple, it's relatively logical, and I think everybody can understand that. So right now, it's right around back to school season. Everybody can sit here and say, kids are going back to school? Is there a school bus over there? Okay, great. Let me start to buy back to school stocks. And once this period is over, I don't know, Thanksgiving break or whenever, fall break, I'll sell it then, and reliably, I'm probably going to get a decent profit. The downside to it is this: it is difficult to identify these particular companies and be accurate about them. The other part is, what if the stock market just happens to go up over time, which it does do. So here's an example of that. United Healthcare. In December, United Healthcare averages every December, or not every December, 22 out of the last 27 Decembers to be exact, United Healthcare has been positive. So it's 81% of the time in December, United Healthcare just happens to be up. And again, average about 4.8%, almost 5% in December. That's not bad. 81% of the time, so says history, 5%, that's solid, right? That would be something to really like. Now, the other part of this is, again, 22 out of the last 27 years, that's back to 1994. Could have just held it for the long term. If I had bought it back in 94, of January of 1994, and just held on to it, I'd have more than 10,000% today, which is quite good. And in the chart that you see now, this is comparing the S&P 500 to United Healthcare all by itself. So yeah, I could have just held it for a long term, or I can try and, buy every single December, buy and sell every December, and see how that works out for me. But again, last 27 years, 81% of the time, that's really not that bad. It's actually quite solid. Here's the other part of it though. How do you really determine the difference between just this particular stock compared to the overall stock market? So this is really looking at United Healthcare. But for example, and we have talked about this before in a previous video, where November through April tends to be one of the best periods to invest. When you split the stock market in half, or the year in half per se, you'll start to see that for whatever reason, from November to April, market just tends to do better versus May through, I guess, October-ish. If we're cutting it evenly, but y'all get the point. November through April, the market just tends to do a whole lot better. And then May, things start to slow down a bit. Almost every year, I can't say every single year, but almost the majority of the time, once you hit May, they call it sell in May and go away, things just start to slow down. Then you hit, end of October, November, things start to pick up. It just happens that way. So if you're looking at December, yes, United Healthcare has been up 81% of the time, but is it just because it's after November, right? Is that just a part of it, or is there something bigger? So being able to separate the two is something that you have to do. And the other thing is, how are you going to find these trends? Because I can give you a chart of what happened from 94 until now. You can pick a date, and we can go to Yahoo Finance and compare those dates. What's more difficult is to sit back and find a stock and go back 20 years and compare all 12 months and find out which one has the best percent chance of, in the past, the best percent chance of doing well. That's really hard to do unless you have some website that can compare all this stuff for you, which I'm unaware of, and I don't know all the websites in the world. So if you got one that does that, let me know. We can review it together and we can do a video on it. But since that resource does not exist easily, I'm sure somebody has a program out there, but since it doesn't exist easily, it makes it a lot harder to figure that out. So it is something that you do have to weigh, because I really don't want just 5 years of data for something like this. I want something I can rely on. 20 years, 25 years, and that's a good barometer to say, yeah, I think this makes sense. 80% of the time, this has happened. That's something that you want to consider. The other part is, on the negative side, I guess, is every year is different, and there are certain cases where the entire market can shift away from something. So this is not necessarily the case for United Healthcare, but think of, well, COVID was one, right? We talked about back to school season. Well, kids were online. Do they really need school supplies in the same way? Were you really using glue and things like that? That's more of an anomaly year. Same thing with travel. But let's take something like a Netflix, right? Where the market and competition has definitely shifted away from what it used to be. It is not what it used to be anymore. You could have said Netflix at one point was a stock of the decade. And at the time, let's say Netflix and chill, in the winter months when it's cold, people sit around the couch and watch Netflix a whole lot. Well, what if people are still doing that, but they're not doing it for Netflix? That's a question, right? So you want to be very careful of those things and be able to separate, is it just this company? Is it just this time? And has that company evolved, or has the market evolved to where that company is not going to have the same effects or the same trend as it is used to, or as it used to have? So be very careful about that. I think in general, and there's a big if you can find some that have a solid trend, I think it's okay. I would prefer to hold a stock, at least a quarter. Now, my personal thing is to have it for 6 months, but at least a quarter. It's kind of hard to say, like, I'm just going to invest in this for a month and like switch out different stocks every month. But yeah, if you got a reliable indicator that's 80% or above, then you may be justified in doing so. It's just very, very difficult to find the company. So you get the company right, find one that has that level of history, which you got to get that right, and then finally deciding to make that decision and doing it at the right time and all that kind of stuff. So those are my thoughts about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If I were to give this a letter grade, trend trading as a whole, it's always going to depend on the level of data you have. I would give it a C+. If you can find, let's say, 12 to 15 stocks that have a solid trend, and you know exactly when to kind of get in and get out, then it could be solid. It's just way harder to do than to say. All right, so that is it for me. Make sure that you join the members only. The habit video is coming out. I'm finishing that up probably tonight or tomorrow. I will be in Orlando over the next few days, so we're gonna cram. There'll be a whole bunch of me recording in this sweatshirt for the most part for the rest of the week. But in either case, the habit video is coming out. I had another question about my research process and all that, so that will be coming out this week. If you have any other questions that you want me to cover, you better comment right now so I can get everything together and start to content create and do those things and educate y'all about investing, because that's what I do. All right, so that's it for me. I'll talk to you later.